I'm here to talk to you today to persuade you into feeling the same way I do, that college athletes should be paid. College athletes should be paid because of the demanding schedule of a college athlete. The university should pay them for their athletic services to the university. College athletes do not have time for a job, whether it be part-time job or full-time job. They simply do not have time to have a job in addition to going to school and being a member of a sports team. They have countless classes and they have countless practices and the hours and for studying and class, it just doesn't add up to be able to have time to have a job. Through a survey done by the National Collegiate Athletic Association in 2006, it was reported that on average, football players spend 44.8 hours a week practicing, playing, or training for their sport. Here at Eastern, I took it upon myself and asked one of the current players, how much time he spends a week doing each activity. In class, we use so he told me he spends about 17 hours a week in his classes, and I used the average of 44.8 hours for a week for football that the survey had given me, and he has 8 hours a week that's mandatory for study tables, and so that's 7 days and 8 hours. That's 56 hours right there. On top of his 17 hours a week, 17 hours in classes, and his 44 hours on the football doing football activities. And I estimated about 30 minutes each day for 3 meals. So 3 meals a day for 30 minutes. That's an hour and a half each day times 7. And by the end of the week, that comes out to be 10 and a half hours a week for food. That takes up 136 hours a week for Anthony's week that is being accounted for out of a possible 168 hours per week. Based off those numbers, that leaves 31 hours of total free time per week, which clearly is not enough time for an athlete to have a job, to get a source of income, to have even a part-time job. And with today's society and the way the economy is, there's just not enough time, and kids need money to eat. You gotta have food, gotta have pay rent. So there's just not enough time for students to be able to do everything, or student athletes, I should say, to be able to have enough time to do what they should do and have a job as well, and to do everything effectively at the same time. As a solution to the problem, the NCAA should allow student athletes to get paid. The college universities make so much money off the accomplishments of the athletes, yet the athletes don't see any of that money. Oftentimes, they struggle just as much, if not more, as a regular student does. But they're at a disadvantage because they don't have as much free time, or they don't have the opportunity to get a job because of their requirements that they have for their sport. Because athletes, like every other student or college student, wants to have, spending money, going out money, and in rare cases, athletes turn to illegal activities to obtain these financial assistance. In one case at the Ohio State University, certain players took it upon themselves to acquire money for things that they have earned and won through playing football. In 2010, the Ohio State Buckeyes, suspended star quarterback Terrell Pryor, starting running back Daniel Boom Herring, the starting wide receiver DeVere Posey, offensive lineman Mike Adams, and defensive lineman Solomon Thomas. All 5 of those were starters, and they had to miss the first 5 games of the season for selling their conference rings that they had won. They had sold them to get back tattoos. The local tattoo parlor said, if you trade me your, they came to the tattoo man, said, if you trade me your rings, I'll give you your tattoos for the rings. So the students didn't have the money to pay for the tattoos, so to them, that was a great idea. So they sold their rings and they got the tattoos for free. The NCAA found this to be in violation of some of the rules that they have set in place. But so the students ultimately were the ones who had to be punished because they didn't have the money to afford to get the tattoos. They wanted the tattoos, so they took what they had earned, which was their rings, and traded that in because they're valuable, and still got punished. All because they didn't have the money to get the rings, and ultimately that's because they don't have time to have a job to be able to have the money to get the things that they would want to get. Ohio State is not the only school that has ran into problems rooted from students athletes not having enough money and turning to illegal activities to acquire money. According to a Knoxville City Police report, the arrest stemmed from an attempted robbery outside a convenience store on campus at the University of Tennessee. In both cases, the athletes were doing desperate acts to acquire more money because due to their schedule, they are unable to get jobs and receive benefits because of NCAA rules. In the Tennessee case, it was a case where two young men that were starting on the team turned to unfortunately turned to armed robbery to acquire money because they were needed to get groceries or things like that, but they had no time to get a job, obviously because of playing ball. If paying college athletes is indeed implemented to the amount that the team and each player should receive be based on the revenue that each team specifically brings into the university. This way, in determining the amount each player and team will get paid, alleviates the headache of attempting to figure out exactly how to pay each athlete or what team gives what or how each team should be paid because that formula would be used. It will also disallow for individuals to claim discrimination towards a specific sport, team, or player, which removes the chances of arguments about where the money is going. So the team that is bringing in the most, naturally, they should be able to receive the most money and receive the most benefits. Those players on that team. Now the team for the amount each player should get on that team should be the same, but the amount that each team in each sport receives should not be the same because each team does not. Some sports don't even bring in revenue. So this way, it delivers the money equally around to everybody. After a total inventory, it was found that college football is big business. In 2010, according to a study by the U.S. Department of Education, major college football generated $2.2 billion in revenue and brought in $1.1 billion in profit. With this much revenue being brought in, there's no reason why individuals that produce this much income should be struggling to be able to produce and come up with food or not be able to pay bills and have to turn to illegal activities to be able to pay for such things that they want, that they think they deserve or want or need. The demands on a college athlete are great, and the hours asked to be logged may be too much in and as compensation, these athletes should receive pay for their play. Thank you.